Good evening, students. Welcome, welcome back to the class of auditing. So today, students, we shall be starting a new chapter. That is chapter number 2, audit strategy, audit planning, and audit program. Okay, guys. So this chapter basically deals with how the auditor has to plan the audit, how he has to strategize the things, and how an audit program is prepared. What are the basic factors which are kept into consideration while preparing an audit program, how it can be made flexible, how its utility can be improved. All these things, students, we will be discussing in this chapter: audit strategy, audit planning, and audit program. Students, you would understand that before we start any work, it is obvious that some plan has to be made, some strategy has to be made, because unless we have in our mind what we plan to do, how we plan to do, how to prioritize the things, how to strategize the things, we shall not be able to perform any work in an effective way. And audit is no exception. So before starting an audit, the auditor has to plan the audit. What he has to do? He has to plan the audit. Okay. And now planning an audit effectively involves two things. Now, what are those two things, and what is the distinction between those two things? What are their elements? What points have to be kept in mind? So we will be coming to all these things step by step. Okay, students. So planning an audit. Students, essentially involve two things. One is establishing overall audit strategy, and second is developing an detailed audit plan. Okay, is that clear? So planning an audit effectively consists of two things. One thing is establishing overall audit strategy and developing a detailed audit plan. Now, students, these are two different terms. You have to understand these are two different terms: audit strategy and audit plan. These are two different terms. Although these are interrelated, but these are different terms: audit strategy and audit planning. So whatever we shall be studying in this chapter, we would be mainly concerned with SA 300, Standard on Auditing 300, Planning and Audit of Financial Statements. So what does SA 300, SA 300 state? Now SA 300 states that the objective of auditor is to plan audit in such a way that it is carried out effectively. Okay, so that he is able to perform the audit in an effective manner. So as per SA 300, the objective of auditor is to plan the audit so that it will be performed in an effective way, because unless the auditor plans the audit in an effective way, he will not be able uh, to conduct it as is required from him, from a person of his professional expertise. Okay, students. So now plans should cover what things? Now, when an auditor plans the audit, what things should be covered in planning the audit? So there are four things. So there are four things, students. You are able to see the modules, guys. Is the module clear? So this is SA 300. The auditor should plan his work to enable him to conduct an effective audit in an efficient and timely manner. So plans should be made to cover, among other things, what? 4 points. What are the 4 points? Number one is establishing knowledge of clients, accounting systems, policies, and internal control systems. Because you understand that unless you know what the company is doing, what is its nature of business, and how the records are being kept, whether what software the company is using, whether it is using uh, ERP or some other software, okay, and what are the internal control systems devised by the management. So unless the auditor um, does a working on these things, so he would not be able to conduct the audit effectively. So therefore plans should cover this very aspect. Now second aspect flows from this aspect, that is where once you have studied the accounting systems and control procedures, then how much reliance is to be placed, degree of reliance, how much, whether you are satisfied with controls or not. The auditor may choose to rely upon controls if he is satisfied, or he may not choose to rely upon controls. Okay, that he can decide only after reviewing the control systems. Only then he decides what is the control risk and how much degree of reliance is to be placed on internal controls. Next, third thing is, that is very important, that is the core thing of any plan. That is the core thing of any plan: nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures. Guys, you have to remember these words. These are key words: nature, timing, and extent. So you can remember these as NTE. You can prepare an acronym, so it would be useful for you. NTE, nature, timing, and extent. Because this term, nature, timing, and extent, this would occur at several places in your modules. Okay, so you remember it this way: nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures to be performed. Now fourth is coordinating the work to be performed. Obviously coordination has to be done. So students, at this stage, question may arise: what are the audit procedures? So we had touched upon this aspect in chapter 1 also. So audit procedures are the procedures by which the auditor gathers evidence, like he may inspect some document, or he may observe some process being carried out by others like stock taking. He may reperform something, or he may recalculate something, he may inquire. All these are audit procedures. Now, what plans should cover, what should be the nature of audit procedures which should be applied, keeping in view circumstances of each case, what should be their time and extent, how far they be applied, what should be their extent of checking, whether when sample is to be made, then what is the by making what percentage of checking the auditor would gain a substantial degree of comfort level, a substantial degree of reliance. Okay, so this term is, these are keywords, guys: nature, time, and extent. Okay, and Rahul is asking, what is reliance? Reliance means to what extent the auditor has to depend upon this. Rahul, is it clear to you? To what extent an auditor has to depend upon it? Okay. Ayush is asking why knowing ERP is important. No, Ayush, I had given you an example. The client might be following ERP, might be following Tally or any other software available in the market, or any custom made software. Okay, so plans should be further developed and revised. That is also very important. Students, you should understand that plans are not static, these are dynamic. So as the audit progresses, if the if some information comes to the light of auditor, comes to his knowledge, then corresponding changes can be made in the plans. Okay, so this chapter, students, is a little bit theoretical, but even then you have to understand all the keywords, because many things from this chapter are going to be repeated in your syllabus throughout. Okay, so what are the benefits of planning in the audit of financial statements? These are general things. Benefits of planning: obviously, when you plan something, it helps the auditor to devote appropriate attention to important areas of audit. It helps him to pay attention on core areas where he should devote more attention, where there are chances of more chances of material misstatements being found. Okay, so helping the auditor identify and resolve potential problems on a timely basis, and organize and manage the audit engagement. Obviously, if he doesn't plan, then how he can manage, how he can fix a responsibility, who would be responsible for conducting the audit. And planning also helps the auditor in selection of engagement team. Now, where to put experienced persons, or routine checking work is to be done by some fresher, some fresh article clerk, or these kind of things. Okay, so is that clear how planning is useful? Now this relates to how planning is useful. Now Ayush is asking, what is the meaning of nature of audit procedures? Ayush, I have told you audit procedures, we shall be discussing this in chapter 3 in a very detailed manner. So for the time being, you can understand that there are a different type of audit procedures. So the auditor has to see that what kind of audit procedures have to be applied in different cases, so that the audit evidence he would obtain from these audit procedures, it is sufficient and appropriate. Is that clear to you, Ayush? The same question is from Himanshu Gupta also. So facilitating the direction and supervision of engagement team members, obviously the auditor would be reviewing their work from time to time of the engagement team. He would be judging their performance. He would be monitoring their performance. So all these things are benefits of planning in audit of financial statements. Okay. So these things are as per SA 300. SA 300. So now students, we Uh, yes, welcome students. There was a certain technical issue. The connection had snapped. So there are two terms, guys, we were discussing. One is audit strategy and one is audit plan. So what is the difference between these two terms? Audit strategy versus audit plan. So, guys, you can understand that audit strategy is generally broad in nature. So it sets out the scope and direction of the assignment. Okay, and whereas plan is more detailed one, requiring detailing what procedures are to be performed, how it is to be done, how actual performance of work is to be done. Okay, so like students, I'll give you a very general example from your student life. Like when you are preparing for CA exams, so you have made a strategy. Say you have made a strategy that I will join LCC classes, okay, and uh, I will also make self study, and I need preparation time of say 4 months. Okay, just examples. So these can be broadly called as strategy, whereas plan relates to how much time you would be devoting to each subject, what topics you would lay more emphasis upon, and what are your weak areas, what are your strength areas. Okay, so not one to one correlation, but I have given you a I have given you an example so that you can broadly understand what is the difference between these two terms, strategy and plan. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear, students? So what is a strategy? Strategy means overall audit strategy sets the scope, timing, and direction of audit. These are also keywords you have to remember. STD, scope, timing, and direction of audit. This you can make, and this is also an acronym for your convenience. Look, students, it is easy to remember the acronyms, and these are helpful to you in the examination also, because when you are done with the whole of syllabus, you would be confused with many keywords, and you would be mixing it up, you would be juggling it up. So it is better to prepare acronyms, and this is also, you can say, a strategy. This is also a strategy. Okay, students, so you broadly understand what is the broad difference between two terms, strategy and plan. So overall audit strategy sets the scope, timing, and direction of audit. Scope, timing, and direction, and guides the development of more detailed audit plan. So the audit strategy helps the auditor for the development of a more detailed audit plan, and it sets the scope. What is the scope of the engagement? What are the reporting requirements? What is the objective? Okay, timing. at what time all the things have to be done, and direction of the audit, overall direction, you can say overall direction. So audit strategy deals with scope, timing, and direction of audit. So again, here there are benefits, how it is beneficial to the auditor to develop an audit strategy. So the process of establishing the overall audit strategy assists the auditor to determine, subject to completion of risk assessment procedures. It means that uh, uh, it is dependent upon risk assessment procedures. These are also you would be learning in chapter 4. So these are procedures performed by the auditor to assess risk of material misstatement. Okay. So it helps him to deploy resources for specific audit areas, like we had discussed, where more experienced team members are required, and which are high risk areas. Okay, and the amount of resources to allocate to specific audit areas, like number of team members assigned to observe inventory count. Say if inventory taking exercise is very cumbersome, the company carries huge inventories, so more number of engagement team members would be required. Okay, and if the auditor has perceived it as a high risk audit area, then they would be paying more attention to it. So at whether resources are to be deployed, whether at interim audit stage or at key cutoff dates, like guys, like say the auditor has to verify cash in hand, then he has no option. If he wants to physically verify the cash in hand at the close of year, then he has to perform that procedure at the close of year. So at key cutoff date means cutoff date, and or there might be some procedures which are to be performed, which may be performed at any time, or at some during middle of the year. Okay, so these type of things, how briefing and debriefing meetings are expected to be held. So these type of things help the assist the auditor in these ways. Okay, students. So now we come to establishment of overall audit strategy. Establishment of overall audit strategy. Now, what this means, what things are to be considered. Earlier, we had seen how developing an audit strategy is helpful to auditor. Now, here we would study what things are considered by auditor in establishing overall audit strategy. In establishing overall audit strategy. So what are those things? These are things which point is given A, B, C, D, E, up to A, B, C, D, E. So first of all, and very important, the auditor has to consider the characteristics of engagement that define its scope. Obviously, जब आप कोई काम करने जा रहे हैं तो पहले आप ये देखेंगे कि कंपनी के कितने वर्टिकल्स हैं, कितने बिजनेस सेगमेंट है, कंपनी एक ही लाइन ऑफ एक्टिविटी में है या कुछ और है, कंपनी की कितनी लोकेशन है, वेदर प्लांट इज देयर एट one place or plants are scattered at many places. So these are type of things which mark the characteristics of the engagement that define its scope. Okay, is this point clear? Now Bharat is asking what is interim audit. Bharat, the word here is not whether at an interim audit stage. Interim audit stage means during the during at some part of the year, not at the end of year, at some part of the year. Say during at the end of the some quarter, or at the end of half year. Briefing and debriefing means, say, when one person briefs somebody and that this thing has happened, and another person gives feedback. So briefing and debriefing sessions. Okay. Ascertain the reporting objectives of engagement to plan the timing of audit. Ascertain the reporting objectives of engagement. So what is the reporting objective? Whether the auditor has been appointed under law, then obviously the report would be made in accordance with provisions of the law. Or if some there is some voluntary appointment, then what are the objectives? What is the scope of the audit? What is there in the engagement letter? What was there in the offer letter? Okay. So these things are there, and some examples are also given. Now consider the factors that in the auditor's professional judgment are significant in directing engagement team efforts. Now the auditor at the very start, at the planning stage, at the strategy formulation stage, has to consider what in his experience are factors where he would ask his engagement team to put more emphasis upon. Like the auditor makes an overview of the nature of business of the company, and keeping in view his review, he is of the opinion that say stock taking requires more emphasis, or the related party transactions need to be looked into very closely, because it is a group concern and there are many associate sister concerns. So obviously he would ask his engagement team to put more emphasis on these things, to direct their efforts on these aspects, which in his opinion could carry a significant risk of material misstatement. Okay. Consider the results of preliminary engagement activities, and where applicable, whether knowledge gained on other engagements performed by the engagement partner for the entity is relevant. So it only means, say, the engagement partner could have done some work in the company, could have rendered some services, or he could have, say, carried out audit of similar concern, engaged in similar type of business. So he can apply the insights gathered from those assignments to this very field. So these all things help the auditor in developing a cohesive audit strategy. These are all the factors which have to be considered by the auditor. Like example is given, I have already told you, preliminary identification of areas where there is a higher risk of material misstatement. Results of previous audits, that is also very important, guys. Results of previous audits. Now, say he would obviously check what were the observation at the time of previous audit, what were the identified deficiencies, and what the follow-up action has been taken. Okay. And Again, key cutoff dates. Naga Lakshmi is asking cutoff date. Naga Lakshmi is the I have already told you. Say you can understand for now. Cutoff date is the date at which financial statements may be prepared. Say for 21-22, cutoff date means 31st March 22. So all the audit procedures have to be carried out keeping in view cutoff date in mind. Say if the auditor wants to check closing cash on 31st March 22, then this is the cutoff date. Then he has no option, but he has to physically verify the cash on that very date. So this cutoff date becomes very important. Like he would, the auditor would ensure that all the sales for made in the month of March, for which stock has been sent out from the plant of the company, all the invoices have been raised, okay, up to 31st March. So this is the significance of cutoff date. Okay, you understand, Nagalakshmi? Now Hiral is asking, is it good to write example in all language along with answer? Again, Hiral, I am telling you that you have to remember the keywords. You cannot take for granted keywords. You have to write these words as these are. But so far as framing of sentences is concerned, or expressing your opinion is concerned, obviously you would be writing it in your own words. But you cannot say change the word audit procedure with something else, or reasonable assurance with something else, or audit strategy or audit plan with something else, or the basic ingredient of audit strategy, that is scope, timing and direction, with some other term. Okay, so these type of things have to be definitely remembered. But as far as framing of sentences is concerned, obviously you are not supposed to mug it up. You are not into rote learning, and the pattern of paper is such that it prompts you to apply the concepts. Okay, it prompts you to apply the knowledge to the situation at the hand. Okay. Now, Mukta, I think you have not, you were not there in chapter 1 class. You are still asking SA means standards on auditing. So this I have explained in detail in previous 3 classes. Ascertain the nature, timing and extent of resources necessary to perform the engagement. Same thing, nothing special. So you understand, guys, what is audit strategy? So audit strategy is a broad term. It sets out the scope, timing and direction of the audit, and what are the ingredients, what things the auditor should keep in mind while establishing overall audit strategy. Number 1, he has to identify characteristics of engagement and its scope, that define its scope. Number 2, what are my reporting objectives, whether I've been appointed under law or whether it is a voluntary appointment. So accordingly, my reporting objectives would also vary. Say if an audit firm has been appointed under the provisions of law, obviously, then he would be issuing a report in accordance with the terms of law. Like company auditor would be issuing the report in terms of Companies Act. Okay. And C is important factors which in auditor's professional judgment are significant to the engagement team efforts. Now, where the engagement team has to put more effort and which are more high risk areas, and the results of preliminary engagement activities like previous experience gained on similar assignments, etc. Yes, Ayush, the audit paper is 30:70. 30 marks is MCQ consisting of 10 questions of MCQs and then 2 case studies having 5 questions each. Two case studies, one case study is of 10 marks and second case study is also of 10 marks. So total is 30. So this you have to mark on OMR sheet. Now 70 mark paper is descriptive. Even in this descriptive paper, question number first is compulsory. It consists of 7 correct, incorrect type of questions where you have to state whether this statement is correct or incorrect along with reason. Okay, is that clear, Ayush? Now, Amar is asking what is company audit and what is tax audit. Now, Amar, I have told you in the very first class, auditing is a very wide subject, and you would be learning the terms as we move through the syllabus. Okay, so company auditor is appointed under Companies Act. He has to issue a report on the accounts of the company, specifying whether financial statements give a true and fair view. He has to express an opinion, whereas tax audit is carried out under Income Tax Act, under section 44AB of Income Tax Act. Here the auditor has to give report on certain specified points as detailed out in form number 3CD. Okay, so there are many points, 40-50 points relating to many things that you would be studying in your income tax law. So the auditor has to give a report on those specified points which are set out in form 3CD under income tax rules. Okay. Dhanlakshmi, you would not be getting time to write examples in the paper. The questions are very short and crisp and to the point. The questions in the paper ask you to write 3-4 things, 3-4 points. So it is better you see previous year question papers which are there on the website of Board of Studies. Now, relationship between overall audit strategy and audit plan. Relationship between overall audit strategy and audit plan. Now, audit strategy, once an audit strategy has been formulated, obviously it helps the auditor to prepare an audit plan. Okay. But here you have to understand, students, that this point is very important. Many times 2-mark question have come on this point, that audit plan and audit strategy are not necessarily discrete or sequential process. It means that these are not distinct process. Discrete means distinct, which is separate. Sequential means step by step. It means that these are not process that first I will prepare audit strategy, then I will prepare audit plan. Both are interrelated. Change in one can lead to change in another. Say audit strategy has been formulated and audit plan has been formulated. Subsequently, some information comes to the knowledge of the auditor, then it can lead to both change in audit plan as well as in audit strategy. So you have to remember that audit strategy and audit plans, these are not sequential or discrete processes. Discrete means distinct, different from one another, individual. These are not individual process. These are not watertight compartments. Understand, guys? These are not watertight compartments, but these are interrelated. These are interrelated. These are not discrete or sequential processes. Is this point clear, students? Is this point clear to you that audit strategy and audit plan are not necessarily distinct processes? Necessarily means always, although they sometimes are, but these are not necessarily distinct or sequential processes that first strategy has been prepared and then planned. These can both go simultaneously, and change in one can also lead to change in another, and these are interrelated also. Okay, so now we come to audit plan. So this is also very important, audit plan. Now these three things you have to remember. Guys, since this chapter you would be thinking this is a general chapter, but general chapters are more difficult because it is difficult to remember general points. एग्जाम में सबसे ज्यादा जनरल क्वेश्चन ही गलत होते हैं. दिस यू हैव टू रिमेंबर. So the auditor shall develop an audit plan that shall include description of. So it means what audit plan should include. What audit plan should include. So basically this means this. What audit plan should include. So the audit plan should include these three things. These you should remember that these are part of audit plan. Compulsorily any audit plan has to have these three things. So what are these three things? The nature, timing and extent of planned risk assessment procedures. First of all, I've already told you that risk assessment procedures you would be studying in chapter 4. So the audit plan includes what are the risk, what should be the nature, what kind of risk assessment procedures should be performed. Risk assessment procedures are used to identify risk of material misstatements. Okay, where in what areas there is possibility of more misstatement. Okay, so the nature, timing and extent, again the same word, nature, timing and extent of planned risk assessment procedure as is required under SA 315. So we would be studying this SA 315 in detail in chapter 4. The chapter 4 completely deals with SA 315. Okay. Second is the nature, timing and extent of further audit procedures. First, the auditor has carried out risk assessment procedures. Now he would employ further audit procedures. You have assessed the risk. What is the risk of material misstatement? Now here you are just assessing the risk, but you are not actually performing other audit procedures. Now after performing risk assessment procedures, you will plan nature, timing and extent of further audit procedures. Okay, as determined under SA 330, the auditor's response to assessed risk. Naga Lakshmi is asking, what is consequential? Consequential means which is in effect of, which is the result of, which is as the consequence of. If something happens, then another thing happens as a result of it. Okay. And other planned audit procedures. So basically you would see that audit plan includes risk assessment procedures and audit and other planned audit procedures. Okay. So it includes risk assessment procedures and other planned audit procedures. There is a distinction between risk assessment procedures and other audit procedures. As I have told you, you will be learning risk assessment procedures in quite detail in chapter 4. Amar is asking, what is the meaning of extent? Extent, Amar, means to what extent checking is to be done. Say I decide decide to check some purchase bills. Okay, or I decide to verify some sale bills. Now, what should be my extent of checking? Whether I should be making a sample of say 25% or 50% or whatever the criteria I might statistically fix. This is the meaning of extent. कहाँ तक? Nature means कौन से, what should be their nature, किस टाइप के प्रोसीजर्स डिप्लॉय करने हैं, उनकी टाइमिंग क्या हो, और एक्सटेंट कितना करना है. ओके. So for the time being you can understand this much. These all things you would be learning in chapter 3. So the audit plan is more detailed than overall audit strategy. Obviously audit plan तो detailed होगी. Audit strategy sets out the scope, broad direction of the audit, and audit plan is detailed. It actually documents what things are to be done practically. Okay, what procedures are to be performed as per audit program. Okay, students, is that clear? Now we come to another important topic, knowledge of client's business. Now it is gaining knowledge of client's business is what? It is the fundamental principles in developing an audit plan. So unless, students, you have to understand, unless you gain a knowledge of client's business, of the company's operations thoroughly and comprehensively, no audit can be conducted effectively. That you can very well understand. Now, for obtaining knowledge of client's business, there are certain points which have to be kept in mind. These are as per SA 315. These shall also be repeated in chapter 4, and these are here also. So from where, it means from what sources the knowledge of client's business has to be gained, or what aspects has to be kept in mind by the auditor for gaining an insight in the client's business. Okay. So first point is relevant industry, regulatory and other external factors including the applicable FRF. Now students, these the 4 points, what are the that the auditor shall obtain knowledge of client's business, and what are the key points as per SA 315 which have to be kept in mind by auditor. This question has come 2-3 times, 4-mark question. So in such type of questions you have to write these A, B, C, D. Okay, so you have to remember these points. So how the auditor can obtain an understanding of the client's business? Okay, so he can obtain knowledge of relevant industry, regulatory and other external factors including applicable FRF. So very simple. Industry, whether it is a manufacturing company, whether it is a service oriented company, say obviously accounting systems would be entirely different in case of a manufacturing company as compared to a trading company, or as compared to a company providing services. Similarly, within some sector, it would be different. Say in manufacturing sector, it would be different for a textile industry, and it would be different for some, say, paints industry. So what is the sector in which industry is operating? Say the factors in case of a say poultry farm, in a company engaged in obtaining eggs from chicks, it would be very different from a manufacturing industry. So what is the segment in which the industry is operating, and regulatory and other external frameworks? What are the regulatory authorities? Like say in case of telecom sector, there is TRAI, so the company is bound by the regulations of TRAI. Okay, and in case say there is some NBFC, non-banking financial company, then there is RBI. In case of banks, there is RBI regulator. So such type of things. Okay, you understand what is meant by regulatory authorities? Relevant industry, regulatory authorities and other external factors like applicable FRF. This I have already told you, that how financial statements are to be, in what framework financial statements are prepared and presented. Like in case of a company, these are prepared in accordance with Schedule 3 of Companies Act. So is this clear? Now here some examples are given. The effect of regulation on entities operation. Say the company would be bound by rules of TRAI, say a telecommunication company, and what is the whether the industry is seasonal, cyclical or full year. Say in case of a blanket manufacturing company, the plant would not be running for full year. The plant might be closed for 3-4 months, and the production cycle carries out for 6-7 months, because the nature of industry is such that the demand of the product is not for throughout the year. So these type of things, unless the auditor understands the nature of business and what are the regulatory and which regulatory authorities control such business, and the applicable financial reporting framework, the auditor will not be able to make a detailed audit plan. He will not be able to carry out audit in an effective manner. Okay, clear guys? This point is clear to you? Relevant industry, regulatory and other external factors. Nagalakshmi, word is not applicable financial reporting framework. We call it as FRF, financial reporting framework. So financial reporting framework, I have just explained just explained the framework, the structure in accordance with which financial statements are prepared and presented. Number two, the nature of entity including its operations. Same relevant. This relates more to the detailed operations of the company. Say what is its manufacturing process and all that, and whether it is say pan India company or it is a single location company, whether it has got storage points at multiple locations or at single location. Second is its ownership and governance structure. Now, who owns the company? How it is governed? Say if it is a company, it would be governed by board of directors, or who are the persons, who are the key managerial persons, who are the persons behind the management, who are the main shareholders, who are the owners of the company. Okay. The types of investments that the entity is making and plans to make. Now, whether the company is making investment in high risk areas, say the company has invested in some startup, so the venture might fail, or it might flourish. So the auditor has to see all these factors, the way the entity is structured and how it is financed. It means whether the promoters are bringing their own money or they are borrowing. What is their plan? Whether it is a high debt company or low debt company. Okay. Amar is asking what is pan India means. Pan India means across all India. Say if I say that AIMS has locations pan India, All India Institute of Medical Sciences has pan India locations. It is not located in Delhi, or it has got many locations. Okay. So example is, now when the company, when the auditor understands the operations of the company, it understands what are the source of earnings. कि भैया रेवेन्यू कहां से जनरेट हो रहा है, तभी तो उसको पता चलेगा कि क्या सोर्स है अर्निंग का और कहां पे मटेरियल मिस स्टेटमेंट के चांसेस हैं. Unless he knows the various sources of the earnings of the company, only then he will be able to formulate a detailed audit plan. Startup means Amar, some new venture, the companies which are fresh into the business, and this term is very common these days. Startup, we mean to say some new company which has come up in a relatively new field, new line of business. Okay. So like understanding key supplier and customer relationship. So what are the related party risks? The company might be selling to its sister concerns. So whether these transactions are genuine, because in such type of transactions there would always be higher risk of material misstatements. Okay. And say there might be a company having operations on a global level, all over the world. It might be having operations in 5-7 countries. So how there could be chances of material misstatements in financial statements. There is a high risk. Okay. So these type of transactions. Now number C is Yes, Pan India means is not related with permanent account number. Pan India means all over. It is an English word. It is not some PAN number of income tax. Number C is entity selection and application of accounting policies, including the reasons for changes there too. Now, this is also very important. What kind of accounting policies are being selected by the company in relation to accounting matters, and whether these have been applied consistently or some changes have been made, and whether the changes, if changes have been made, whether these changes are appropriate and consistent also. Okay, so there, these things you have already studied in your accounts classes. Selection and application of accounting policies. Obviously, accounting policies are very important for preparation of financial statements. Mukta is asking what is susceptible. Susceptible means prone to, sensitive to, जिसमें ज्यादा चांसेस हैं. Susceptible means जिसमें ज्यादा चांसेस हैं, which is more prone to. If we say that this area is susceptible to fraud, it means इस एरिया में फ्रॉड के ज्यादा चांसेस हैं. या इस एरिया, दिस एरिया इज ससेप्टिबल टू एरर्स, इट मींस इस एरिया में एरर्स के ज्यादा चांसेस हैं. इट इज मोर सेंसिटिव टू एरर्स बीइंग कमिटेड. ओके, मल्टीपल टैक्स ज्यूरिसडिक्शन आई हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन्ड, पूजा. And number 4 is entities, objectives and strategies and those related business risks that may risk in. Now, what are the objectives of management? Now, the management may consist of promoters, may consist of people say who say we want to grow very fast. Now, in such case, they may go on acquiring different businesses. So, in such case, the chances of material misstatements are also very high. As compared to that, there might be some companies who want to go slow, who would be comfortable with the growth of say over a 10-year period, but other companies, maybe other people might not be so comfortable. So if the company is regularly acquiring other companies, or if the management objective is to achieve a high growth in a short period of time, then obviously risk of material misstatement increases, guys. Isn't it, guys? So is that clear? Now another point is the measurement and review of entities' financial performance. Now, how the entity is working. So how at the time of preparation of audit plan, how an auditor can judge the entity's financial performance. Obviously, he can obtain reports from credit rating agencies. These are helpful to understand entities' performance. Such reports can be obtained from the entity, and these credit rating agencies or analysts, these are external and independent. You might have heard name of credit rating agencies which banks usually hire, like CRISIL. Okay, so is that clear? So now again we will review all these 5 points. So students, first of all, you need to understand to what these 5 points relate to. You have to remember the broad, all these broad 5 points, because these are there in your chapter 4 also, and these are here also. So it is better you remember here also, it would benefit you in chapter 4 also. So what are the relevant points that the from which the auditor can gain an understanding of the business of an entity as per SA 315? So these are the points. Number one, first factor is relevant industry, regulatory and other external factors including applicable FRF. कि वो इंडस्ट्री, वो कंपनी जो है उसकी कौन सी ओवरऑल इंडस्ट्री है, वो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है, ट्रेडिंग है, सर्विस है, कंस्ट्रक्शन है, क्या है, और रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटीज कौन है, और उसका एप्लीकेबल एफआरएफ कौन सा है. ओके. And the nature of entity, second point is nature of entity. What is the nature of entity, including its operation, its ownership, कि मैनेजरियल पर्सन कौन है, उसका कंपनी चलती कैसे है, व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट्स कंपनी इज मेकिंग, एंड व्हाट इज इट्स फाइनेंसिंग पैटर्न, whether it is a high debt company or a low debt company, whether promoters have put in more money or the company has raised by way of borrowings. So all these things help the auditor in understanding the business of the company. Okay. In understanding the client of the company, in understanding the client of whom audit is to be done. And third point is entity selection and application of accounting policies, including very important reasons for changes thereto. Now the which accounting policies the audit has to which accounting policies the entity is selecting and how it is applying, and if some accounting policy is being changed, what is the reason for it, whether it is applied consistently or not. This is the third point. And fourth point is entities, objectives and strategies. I have given you an example. What is the management objective, whether it wants to hire, whether it wants to acquire companies and then achieve some growth path, or whether it wants to expand its own business. The management objective is not such to acquire other companies. So these days it is happening that if some company sees a growth in its line of activity, then it acquires other companies which are still startups, which are still freshers, and it pays the money because promoters of that company senses business opportunities. But although there are business opportunities, but simultaneously there is also higher risk of material misstatements in financial statements. That, guys, you have to understand. Bharat, these 5 points which I am telling you, these have to be learnt as it is. Wherever acronyms are there, I have already told you. Okay. And the fifth is the measurement and review of entities' financial performance. That how the organization's financial performance is to be measured. It can be measured and an opinion can be formed about it from reports of external rating agencies, etc. Like I had given you an examples of CRISIL. Similarly, there are many other rating agencies available in the market. Okay. Now, if the accounting policies is not appropriate, then auditor has to bring it out in the report, because it might lead to some some great effect on its financial position. Okay, Hitesh, whether the company changes it or not, this is the prerogative of the management, but the auditor has to report it. Now here, guys, you have also to understand that planning is not a discrete phase of an audit, but rather a continual and iterative process that begins shortly with the completion of previous audit and continues until the completion of audit engagement. Now this thing is also very important. We had earlier also studied that audit strategy and audit planning, these are not two distinct phases. These are interrelated. These are not necessarily distinct phases. These can be interrelated because a change in one thing can affect other thing. Change in one thing can lead to changes in another thing, like change in audit plan can lead to change in audit strategy. Similarly, planning is also not a distinct phase of audit. Overall planning process is not a distinct phase. This you have to remember, but it is rather a continual and iterative. Iterative means repetitive, which goes again and again, again and again. Like previous year audit has completed, then the preparation of next year's audit starts. Preparation of audit plan starts. So whatever the insights the auditor has gained from previous audit, these are useful and relevant for the next engagement. So it is a repetitive process. It is not a distinct process कि एक बार plan बन गई खत्म हो गया. No, it is subject to change and it is repetitive process. Okay. So planning includes consideration of timing of certain activities and audit procedures that need to be completed prior to the performance of further audit procedures. Like I told you that auditor has to first perform risk assessment procedures. What we had considered is that planning includes first planned risk assessment procedures, then further audit procedures are to be carried out. Okay. And here one more thing is important, that audit strategy and audit plan, guys, you have to understand these are the auditor's responsibility. Obviously, no doubt about it. Audit plan and audit strategy are definitely auditor's responsibility, and these are formulated by auditor. But here one more important thing, students, you have to remember, that is, it is not that the auditor would keep the plan with himself. He can discuss some parts of the plan, some elements of the plan with the management. Why? To improve the plan or to facilitate the conduct of engagement. Okay. Okay. So okay, guys. So the auditor decides to discuss elements of planning with entities engagement to facilitate the conduct and management of audit engagement. He may decide to discuss the plan with the management because it will make it easy for him to conduct the audit, but it doesn't mean that he is going to disclose all the audit procedure he wants to carry out. No, it doesn't mean that he wants to disclose everything which is there in the plan, but he can discuss some elements, some things that we would be performing certain procedures at this time. Okay, so these kind of things that we would be going at this place at this time. Obviously, these things are to be discussed with the management. Only then audit can be conducted in an effective manner. Is that clear to you guys? Is that clear? Overall audit strategy and audit plan are the auditor's responsibility, but it is very important that the auditor may decide to discuss elements of planning with the entity's management to facilitate the conduct and management of audits engagement. That is important because this is contrary point. So whatever points are contrary, you have to, contrary means opposite. Whatever points are contrary, obviously your attention should go to these. Because at the first stage you would think why that an auditor would want to share his audit plan with management, but he may share some elements of his plan so that audit carries on smoothly. Okay, what things are to be shared, what things are not to be shared, that is left to the auditor's judgment. Obviously, he is not going to discuss how extent of his sample checking, how much checking he is going to do, or what procedure he is going to apply in details. He has not to discuss these detailed things with management, but certain things he might discuss. Okay. Ayush is asking one question again. I think he has asked it twice. Essay 300 says financial statements and definition. Why financial information? Say, Ayush, when you were told about the definition of audit, we told you that audit is an independent examination of financial information of an entity. Okay. Now, where financial information is contained, it is contained in financial statements. Now, to explain in better terms, the word financial information is used in the meaning and definition of audit, but later on the word financial statements is used because financial information express opinion on financial statements. Now what he would be expressing his opinion on financial information itself, which is contained in financial statements. Okay, so you need not be very much worried about these things. Okay, so at this stage, guys, we will take a short break of 10 minutes. So see you after 10 minutes, students. Break for 10 minutes. Yes, guys, welcome back. One point was left. That was additional consideration in initial audit engagements. Now, what this point we had also touched upon in chapter 1. So, initial audit engagement means when the auditor is accepting the engagement for the first time. For first time. So it is known as initial audit engagement. It is different from recurring audit engagement. Recurring means which is occurring again and again. Okay. So here initial audit engagements, in such engagements we had learnt in chapter 1 that obviously auditor would perform certain procedures like what is the integrity of promoters. Okay. We had learned this in chapter 1 that he would inquire about the integrity of the management, and he would also see whether there are see what are the reasons for his appointment and what are the reasons for non appointing predecessor previous auditor. That is why he would communicate with the predecessor auditor when there has been change in auditors, because it is also required ethically also, and it may be mandated by law also. I told you because communication with previous auditor is important, because it enables the auditor to know any professional reasons, to know whether any reasons, professional reasons exist for him to not accept the assignment. Okay. So he may also come to know few things about the prospective client. So these things are also to be considered by the auditor before starting an initial audit. So one question I would like to take up, it is coming from Aini Khan. It relates to chapter 1. Now she is asking whether the auditor is to rely upon the work of experts. Aini, you have to understand that auditor indeed is able to rely upon work of an expert of other auditor, but ultimate responsibility of ultimate responsibility rests with the person who is signing the report. Although he is relying upon the work of another auditor, but he has to rely with due care. He has to see diligently, carefully that all procedures have been applied by the persons by other auditor of whom work he is relying upon. Okay, is that clear to you, Aini? So now we come to 7th point. Changes to planning process during the course of audit. This I had already told you that planning is not a static process. It is not a static process. It is a dynamic process. The auditor shall update and change the audit strategy and audit plan as necessary during the course of audit. ये नहीं है कि एक बार स्ट्रेटेजी बन गई, प्लान बन गई तो उसमें कोई चेंज नहीं होगा. If some information comes to the knowledge of auditor, then he can obviously update the plan and strategy. So this might be due to change in circumstances, or some events might have happened which could lead to a rethink. Okay, so the auditor may need, say the auditor has already obtained audit evidence by performing certain audit procedures, and some unexpected thing has happened which calls for which calls for further audit procedure which were not planned. So the auditor would definitely, he would change his strategy and plan to accommodate those audit procedures also. Okay. Hiral, these points are written in essay 220 because for performing a quality audit, the auditor has to check all these things before he accepts initial audit engagement. He has to see all these things. Direction, supervision, and review. This is a sort of general point that he shall supervise the engagement team members, how the work is progressing. Obviously, it is his responsibility to supervise the work, and he has to review the work uh, of his of his team members, of engagement team members. Okay, how they are proceeding. Now, this is very important. Documentation. Documentation. This is important. The auditor shall document. Guys, you have to understand that auditor has to document it. It means he has to put into writing. He has to document the overall audit strategy, the plan, and any significant changes to the strategy and plan and reason for such changes also. So why it is stated that auditor shall uh, document audit strategy and audit plan? Because if the auditor documents all these things, then in case after signing of his audit report, after the engagement has been completed, some misstatements come to the knowledge of the management or to the knowledge of some regulators, then obviously he can show the documents, he can show his documentation that he had carried out the work in accordance with essays, and he had done proper planning, and he had strategized. ऐसे नहीं है कि he has started conducting the audit on the basis of some mental plan. He has logically prepared a strategy, put in place a plan, and he has carried out he has performed audit procedures as these are required by standards on auditing in a professional manner. So that is why audit documentation becomes important. Here, this is the significance of audit documentation. What I have told you, this is the significance. Why it is necessary? This is the significance of audit documentation. Okay. So this documentation contains all the records. What is the strategy? What is the plan? What checking is to be performed? Which checking is to be done by whom? At what stage it is to be done? What is the extent of checking? What shall be the sample size? What are the contents of audit program? These are all part of audit all part of documentation. Okay. No, Ayush, standards on auditing have been given a range of numbers. So these are not up to 300, these go up to 700 and beyond. So you can go on the resources section on the ICI portal and check. So guys, again, the important thing, the auditor shall document audit strategy, audit plan, and any significant changes. What if he has made changes, then he shall write it in chronological order, that this change was made at this stage due to this reason, that this information has come to my light, therefore these changes have been made. These serve an important purpose, as I've told you, that these are a detailed record that audit has been conducted in a professional manner in accordance with standards on auditing. Okay, here all the significance, what is its importance, why audit documentation is important, audit plan, why the documentation of audit plan is important. The documentation of audit plan is a record of plan, nature, timing, and extent of not only risk assessment procedures. We had studied in that at the time of audit plans, that audit plan includes description of risk assessment procedures and further audit procedures. Okay, so it serves as a record of the proper planning of audit procedures, then can be approved prior to performance. Okay, the auditor may use standard audit programs. Okay, a record of significant changes to the overall audit strategy and audit plan explains why the significant changes were made and overall audit strategy plan finally adopted for the audit. So these following things should form part of auditor's documentation: a summary of discussions, documentation of audit committee, audit documentation access letters, all these things, these have to be prepared. Okay, okay guys, so students, you have understood what we have done in up till now, what we have done in this chapter up till now. So we have learned the importance of planning. We have learned why planning is important for audit of financial statements. We have understood two terms, that is audit strategy and audit plan. So what is audit strategy? Audit strategy sets out scope, timing, and direction of the audit, whereas audit plan is detailed plan. It includes the performance of risk assessment procedures which have been planned and other further audit procedures which are to be carried out by the audit, which are to be carried out by the auditor. Okay, so audit strategy and audit plan are not distinct processes, these are interrelated. Change in one can lead to change in another. Similarly, planning of audit is not a distinct watertight compartment phase. It is also a repetitive process. So where plans also plans start when the audit of 1 year is completed, and when the next year's audit is started, it goes on till the completion of audit and necessary changes are made. It is not a fixed watertight sort of thing. Okay guys, so you understand audit strategy, audit plan and nature, and very important, audit documentation. Documentation of audit plan, that audit plan has to be documented by the auditor. Not only audit plan, audit strategy, audit plan, and all the significant changes which have been made to the audit strategy and to the audit plan, these have to be documented, put in writing by the auditor. Okay. And also reason for changes, why the audit plan was changed, what was the information, what was the new information which has come into the possession of auditor, and its importance I have just told you. Okay. Assertion level, again Rajinder said assertion. Rajinder, I have explained assertion uh, not only once but I think 3-4 times during chapter 1, so you can see the video. And anyway we would be discussing assertion again in chapter 3. So in chapter 3 the assertion topic, assertion subtopic is in a very detailed manner. Okay. Audit program, Ayush, audit program, we would be learning about it uh, in our next class. So today we will be doing few correct incorrect type of statements. So let us see what you have learned today. Let us see. So is the screen visible to you guys? Screen is visible to you? Now question number 1. Audit plan is primarily concerned with scope, timing and direction of audit. Now tell me guys whether this statement is correct or incorrect. Audit plan is primarily concerned with scope, timing and direction of audit. Yes, students, we learned and I have repeated these keywords many times. During today's lecture, I have repeated these keywords many times. Audit plan is primarily concerned with scope, timing and direction of audit. Only 4 responses. Prema Joy, Ayush, Rupesh and Dhanlakshmi. What about other students? Audit plan is primarily concerned with scope, timing and direction. So let us see how much information you have been able to absorb or how much you have understood. Students, audit plan is primarily concerned with scope, timing and direction of audit. Is this statement correct or incorrect? Still only 8-10 people. Yes, students, come on. Fairly simple question. Now guys, I am surprised to know that many of you are answering even this simple question incorrectly. I had told you that audit strategy sets out the scope, timing and direction of audit. STD, I had asked you to remember. Now this was concerned with audit strategy, not plan. So you have to write that audit strategy is concerned with scope, timing and direction of audit. Or another answer of this question can be that audit plan is concerned with nature, timing and extent of audit procedure. Both are correct. Nature, timing and extent of audit procedure. Both are correct. But the answer to this question is incorrect. That this statement is incorrect. Whatever way you answer, if suppose this question comes in your exam, whatever way you answer, you would get full credit. If a student has written that audit strategy is concerned with scope, timing, direction and of audit, even then he will get full credit. If he has written that audit plan is concerned with nature, time and extent of audit procedures, then also he is going to get full credit. R. Shri Ram is writing the same thing. Audit plan is concerned with nature, timing, and uh, direction. No, nature, timing, and extent. Shri Ram, nature, timing, and extent. You have to, again, I am saying, you have to remember the keywords scope, time, and direction. STD. These are concerned with audit strategy, and audit plan is concerned with nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures. Nature, timing, and extent. Here, the word is not direction. Here, the word is extent. कितनी चेकिंग होगी, किस एक्सटेंट तक चेकिंग होगी. डायरेक्शन मींस ओवरऑल डायरेक्शन, वी आर स्टिल इन डायरेक्शन फेज, वेयर टू गो. बट प्लान स्टेट्स व्हाट इज टू बी चेक, हाउ मच, whether all in a given segment, whether all invoices are to be checked or a few percentage is to be checked. If few percentage is to be checked, then what is that percentage? Is that clear? Amar Kumar Das, this assignment is already uploaded. This assignment is already uploaded in your ID. Okay. Now we come to question number 2. What is question number 2? Reports of external rating agencies can be helpful in knowing about client's business and consequently in developing an audit plan. Now, students, study the statement carefully, word by word, and then answer. Now, whether this statement is correct or incorrect. Two males only, Siddharth and Himanshu Gupta. Reports of external rating agencies can be helpful in knowing about clients' business and consequently in developing an audit plan. Yes, waiting for your male students. Can reports of external rating agencies be helpful to the auditor in developing an audit plan? Now this substantial number of students have answered this correctly. This statement is correct. But I am surprised to know that many of you are stating that this is incorrect. I have told you external rating agencies just now many times that how reports of external rating agencies are helpful in reviewing the financial performance of an entity. So the 5 points as per SA 315 which have to be kept in mind by the auditor in understanding the entity's environment, in understanding the entity's business. How you can do this, guys? This simple one you are also answering wrongly. So have you understood guys? ऑडिट प्लान का क्या मतलब है? ऑडिट प्लान, अगर मेरे को क्लाइंट के बिजनेस के बारे में पता नहीं होगा तो हाउ आई वुड प्रिपेयर एन इफेक्टिव ऑडिट प्लान? सो एक्सटर्नल रेटिंग एजेंसी की जो रिपोर्ट है वो उसमें फाइनेंशियल इंफॉर्मेशन है, एक इंडिपेंडेंट एक्सटर्नल एजेंसी से दी गई है. ऑब्वियसली आई कैन रिलाई अपॉन दैट एंड आई कैन keep those factors in mind while preparing an audit plan for carrying out effective audit. Isn't it true, guys? Now, number three. Number three is audit plan does not include description of risk assessment procedure. It states that audit plan does not include description of risk assessment procedures. Now, whether this is correct or incorrect, whether audit plan includes description of risk assessment procedures or not, this is the point. This is what the demand of question is. This is what the question is asking. Audit plan does not include description of risk assessment procedures. Whether it includes or does not include. No response, only one mail. Sumit. Audit plan does not include description of risk assessment procedures. Yes, guys, why are you taking so much time? Fairly simple question. Audit plan does not include description of risk assessment procedures. A substantial number of you have answered it correctly. This is incorrect due to the simple reason that audit plan includes. It is one of the important component. डिस्क्रिप्शन ऑफ रिस्क असेसमेंट प्रोसीजर, कौन कौन से रिस्क असेसमेंट प्रोसीजर्स होंगे, दैट इज वन ऑफ द इंपॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ ऑडिट प्लान. ओके, so now we come to question number 4. Yes, this is also fairly simple. Audit plan is documented by auditor, however audit strategy is not documented. Tell me, what, when documenting planning work, whether audit plan is documented and audit strategy is not documented. Is this correct or incorrect? Is the statement correct or incorrect? Just 1-2 responses. The question states that only audit plan is documented and audit strategy is not documented. Whether this statement is correct or incorrect. Audit plan is documented by the auditor, however, audit strategy is not documented. Now, this statement is, students, it is incorrect because we had understood that audit strategy is also documented and audit plan is also documented. Besides audit strategy and audit plan, also documented are the reasons, are the significant changes to the audit plan and audit strategy and reason for such changes. These are also documented. Okay, so this statement is incorrect because both audit plan and audit strategy are documented. Okay, now we come to next question. This question number 5. The auditor should not discuss elements of audit planning with company's management to maintain element of surprise. Read the question carefully and then answer. Do not rush. ऑडिटर को ऑडिट प्लानिंग कंपनी की मैनेजमेंट से डिस्कस नहीं करनी चाहिए ताकि सरप्राइज रहे उसको. To maintain element of surprise. This is the meaning. What is question number 5? The auditor should not discuss elements of audit planning with company's management to maintain element of surprise. Yes, guys, waiting for your responses. Whether auditor should discuss elements of audit planning with management or not. This you are being asked to reply, to state. Sumit, you are writing only correct, incorrect. You have also to write reasons. Again, I am telling you that if you simply write correct or incorrect without reasons, you would not be getting any mark. You would be getting 0 in the paper. Yes, students, now I observe that many of you are writing correct reasons, but you are answering the conclusion wrongly. So the auditor, this statement is incorrect. The auditor may discuss some elements of audit planning. He may discuss some elements of audit planning so that audit is carried on smoothly. Now, this is the purpose. Now, Bharat, you are stating that this statement is incorrect. You have stated it correctly, but you are giving the reason wrongly. You are stating that to not here, it should be to maintain element of surprise. It should be there to maintain confidentiality. No, but this is not the reason. The reason is that the auditor can discuss some elements of audit planning with management for carrying out an effective audit. Okay. If he was not, if he were not to discuss, then only he would be maintaining confidentiality. Then either you are conclusion is wrong or your answer is right or your reason is right. It can't be both ways. Bharat, you understand? You understand the answer? Is it clear, Bharat? Kushia, you are again writing the wrong reason. You are stating that auditor should discuss all the things. No, he should not discuss all the things. He can discuss some things of audit planning. He can discuss some elements of audit planning with company's management to carry out the audit effectively. Students, when in the examination condition you are not able to write your reason logically or in a proper manner, even then examiner would not be in a position to know what you are trying to say. So when framing sentences, just prepare short sentences and write correct reason. It is not a literature paper. It is a practical paper rooted in theoretical concepts, and you have to apply the concepts to practical situations. Okay. So your language should be crisp. You should be able to convey what you are trying to say. Sometimes we state we are correct in our mind, but we are not able to convey it in writing properly. So your framing of sentences should be proper. So your framing of sentences should be proper. Is that clear? So guys, we shall also start and touch upon the next topic of audit program. Now, what is audit program, guys? So we'll start this topic today, audit program. That is very important because practically when you would be going to audit also, then you would be dealing with audit program. As articles, when you would be going to the audit, you would be going to perform the audit. As assistants, then you would be dealing with the audit programs. Okay. Yes, Dhanlakshmi, you can ask your doubt if time permits. I will reply today. Audit program. It is now what is an audit program? First, we understand what is audit program. What is the meaning of audit program? So we have prepared audit strategy. We have developed an audit plan. Now exactly what things are to do, what steps are to be done in respect of each of the areas, what verification procedures are to be applied. Okay, so these are there in the audit program. So the audit program is developed by the principal, by the say engagement partner of the audit firm, and it acts as a tool to the assistants for carrying out the work in a planned manner. Because in the audit program it is written what checking is to be done, to what extent, what should be the extent of sample checking, which area is to be checked, and in that area which things, which steps are to be seen. Like say in case of purchases, the audit program might state that so much purchase bills are to be verified. Further, on a test basis, inventory records are to be verified, whether these items have been reflected in stock records as in items, because all purchases would be reflected in stock records as in items. Similarly, the audit program might ask you to check payments made to suppliers, by tracing it to the bank accounts, or it may ask you to check the purchase invoices of the company, of the organization, with what is reflected on the GST portal. So these kind of things, these kind of practical things, audit procedures, these are the practical verification steps which are there in the audit program. Okay, guys. So Amar is saying audit program tomorrow. Amar, I am just starting the topic today. I am just starting the topic today. It is a detailed topic, so it would not be able. We would not be able to complete it today, but I am starting it. So audit program. What is the definition? Audit program consists of a series of verification procedures. It is not one, series of verification procedures. So you have to remember the words verification procedures to be applied to the financial statements and accounts of the given company. To whom these are to be applied? To the accounts, accounting records and the financial statements. क्या चेक करना है, कितना चेक करना है, वो सब ऑडिट प्रोग्राम में होगा. एंड व्हाट इज द पर्पस ऑफ ऑडिट प्रोग्राम? The purpose of audit program is to obtain an audit evidence, because when you verify some item directly from the records of the company, then you would be obtaining audit evidence. You would be writing, you would be stating that this much area has been checked as detailed in audit program. So obviously you are obtaining audit evidence in this respect. Okay. Ultimately, this audit evidence leads to the formation of an opinion and its expression in the form of report by the auditor. Okay. Is that clear to you guys? Audit program. What is audit program? So audit program contains many steps which are to be carried out by the engagement team members. We have prepared a strategy, we have prepared a plan. Now what has to be done actually? जैसे मैंने आपको परचेज इनवॉइसेस के एग्जांपल बताया, सिमिलरली से audit program in respect to cash, it might relate to physical verification of cash, checking of cash book, okay, and such procedures. Is that clear? Similarly, audit program relating to fixed assets, it might contain instructions regarding verification of bills of assets purchased during the year, and it may also relate to inspection of newly acquired assets. Okay. So these kind of things are there in the audit program. So is it clear to you, students, what is the meaning of audit program? Now there is one question from Dhanlakshmi. She is asking, this question is regarding chapter 1. She is stating that if an auditor is employed by the company, so doesn't it attract familiarity threats? This is what you are asking, Dhanlakshmi. Now first let me tell me, Dhanlakshmi, what do you mean by employed? Say if you are asking that an auditor is employed in a company, employed by a company, if he is on a job, he is employee of a company, then he cannot express opinion on financial statements. But if he is appointed as auditor of the company, he is external person, then if he is appointed for say number of years, only then he would become familiar. Only then familiarity threat would happen. Only then familiarity threat would get attracted. Say if a new auditor is appointed by the company for first year, then how he could be familiar to the company? Then how could familiarity threats be attracted? Is that clear, Dhanlakshmi? Please let me know. Yes. Waiting for your response. Is this familiarity threat clear to you? Now, Amar, Hiral, Dhanlakshmi, you are writing what is an informed opinion. Students, please use your common sense also. Informed opinion is nothing but a carefully arrived at opinion. Informed opinion means carefully arrived at opinion that the auditor has carried out all audit procedures and he has obtained sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. He has done verification, he has done checking, and on the basis of that, he has arrived at that opinion. That is what is called as informed opinion. Informed means which is based upon certain information. Okay. Is that clear? Informed opinion to all of you? Dhanlakshmi, Amar, Hiral. And what about familiarity threat problem? Dhanlakshmi, you have not responded. I am waiting for your reply. Still no reply from Dhanlakshmi. Is the independence, familiarity threat to the independence of auditor clear to you? So, guys, you would understand that audit program is also, again, it is a detailed part of audit plan. Now, audit plan contains many audit plan contains risk assessment procedures and other planned audit procedures, whereas audit program contains actual verification steps, step by step, series of verification steps. It is upon the audit program, effectively designed audit program, that effectiveness of an audit depends. Because if the audit program is not verified by the auditor, then is not designed by the auditor properly, then engagement team members will not be able to carry out the will not be able to carry out the audit effectively. Ayush is saying, sir, audit is completed in one day. No, Ayush, it is a fairly long process. You are mistaken. How audit can be completed in one day? And it depends upon the size of the company. It depends upon the nature of operations of the company. Do you think that all the things what we are reading, all the things what we are discussing, it can be applied in one day? In accordance, whether you would be able to complete the work in one day by applying all the essays, by applying all the standards on auditing, it is not possible. How you can do it? So these things, guys, you will understand when you do the things practically. When you will join your articleship, or some of you might have joined. So these are the things that you would be learning practically. I have told you in the very first lecture that although from your point of view, although from examination point of view, auditing is a theoretical subject, but actually it is a thoroughly practical subject. All the concepts, all the topics, all the subtopics which you are learning, which you are studying, these are all to be applied practically. These are all to be applied practically. Okay. So is that clear? Now Kiran is asking how long it takes to audit the financial statements of company. Kiran, there is no one straight answer to this question. It depends upon the operations of the company, nature and size of the company, but obviously it can audit cannot be a never ending process. Say if the in case of a company the audit has to be done in a time frame because audited accounts are then approved by board in AGM, and um, then there are compliances to be made for for respective ROCs, etc. So it is not that it is never ending process. It takes time. Wherever there are wherever the auditor is appointed under law, it has to be done, it has to be conducted keeping in view requirements of the law. Okay. Okay guys, so I think it is enough for today. So guys, good night. Good night to all of you. Yes.